Hey, how are you? I am so glad you're here. I want to show you this house that I designed and built, particularly the formal area, which is the foyer, the living room, the dining room, and the wine room in particular. But before I do, let me show you what occurs before you even enter the front door. I'm Robert Berger. I'm an architect and builder for over 30 years. Establishing any architecture the way a guest is going to approach is the first impressions. And those impressions start to establish how you want that person to experience the space. This area that I designed, I finally refer to as an eggshell, as though you've taken an egg, sliced it in half, and you're looking at the inside of an eggshell, reminiscent of Roman shape. It embraces you, it's all the way around you, it's white, and it starts to tell you how it's going to feel on the inside and helps to create the experience before you even get inside. Part of that experience is obviously in the details. So while the overall shape gets you there, then it's the smaller pieces of limestone, it's the serpentine steps, it's the projection of the roof, and then we contrast it with the shrubs as you go up to add color to the white shape. Off of the overall shape that wraps around you, the walls sweep out, but I want to bring you inside. Let's go. What I want to share with you about this section of the house is that it's the formal side of the house. The whole house is divided with wings, and each wing helps to set up exterior courtyards. When you step in this house, it's asymmetrical, but everything within it is symmetrical. So as soon as you step in the front door, what you'll notice is you are dead center on the dining room when you're standing in the foyer. When I step inside here, I have a stair that comes down on center to where I'm standing. I'm on center with the dining room beyond, looking through to the exterior courtyard. I turn 45 degrees, I'm on center with the round living room. And then I turn 90 degrees and I'm on center with the office or study. And so it's very important to help people get a sense of where they are in the space immediately before they can take it in. And that was important to have each one of these shapes be independently unique, but all be organized from the second that you step in the front door. It's pretty neat. There's a few other things that you need to accommodate when you're designing the home, such as coat closets and powder room. So in this shape, I strategically hid the coat closets and the powder room off to the side. So you're already stepping beyond where those two rooms are, therefore not making that a feature that when you step in, you immediately notice those elements. I also did not want to create coat closets on the front wall when you are walking out. I wanted there to be artwork, and I wanted the stairwell to be a strong part of your experience as you're walking out of the house. In addition to walking out of the house, you've got this 9.5 foot tall, 3.5 foot wide door. This is knotty alder, really feels sturdy as you're walking out. So having a dark door going through a light wall is welcoming to approach and pleasant to leave behind. I was asked by the client to make a very large grand foyer. And so one of the things that I loved about shaping this space is that down here, I did square walls. So down below where the floor is, everything is square. And that really maximized the amount of space and floor area so that they can set up tables or chairs or just have the amount of room for large parties for entertainment. The unique shape is that I start out with square, but I end up with an elliptical shape of the balcony above. And so that elliptical shape, as it swings around, goes into an elliptical stair down to a landing, and then that landing has an elliptical stair that swings in the other direction. All of these shapes have other implications, such as, while this is perfect in its symmetry and shape and depth all the way through, even from here, it sweeps outward because I wanted to have the second floor balcony feel wider as well as fluid. So I didn't want a rigid space. So it's all about that experience. And this overall shape helps to create an embrace up above with the space that I need down below because our eyes always look upward. So from the front edge of this arch, it sweeps outward. That arch sweeping around the curve then created an elongated arch around a bend. Therefore, it's the widest one opening you up or your guests into the living room. This arch is an embracing circular arch that also sweeps up and out. Then you are heading straight on to the living room, which is then a round room. So to join round rooms with square and elliptical rooms is definitely a challenge, but by playing with the actual symmetry of that 45-degree angle that I was talking about, that gets me into the living room, which I designed to be a round room that feels like a pavilion. So when you walk in, you are noticing that there are large columns that wrap all the way around the room. All of these columns are floor to ceiling and have glass in between. That glass goes down to the floor and up to the beam or frieze board that wraps around the room, also enhancing the circular feel to it, with sconces set up in between each one of those, again highlighting the fact that it is singular sections of walls. Each one of these help to give an outdoor feeling and a pavilion feeling. This is a pretty big room. It's about 18.5 feet round and has a lot of detail, even though there's not a lot of walls to have a lot of detail. This living room is set up again to embrace, but also, in addition to the open columns that go to the foyer and open columns on center of the circle that line up with the dining room and the wine room beyond, it also is on center with looking out over the formal gardens. All these interior space directly relate to the exterior spaces, and all of the exterior spaces are outdoor rooms. The round room, being built on the corner to the back of the house, is a little bit more unique than the other rooms in the house in that it's looking a little bit southeast, and then it's looking south and then over to the west. So it wraps you around then to the northwest. So you're actually experiencing southeast to northwest in this room, wrapping ourselves around the property. The other unique element of this living room is that it's all glass, has these columns within it, and a round fireplace. The wall, rather, on the outside face is round. So we recessed the fireplace in it. This is the only solid wall in this room. That was purposeful so that I can have a fireplace, and I did not make the fireplace be a focal point. Rather, the feeling of being in a pavilion is the focal point, but it's still nice to warm yourself by the fire or have the fire while you're entertaining with guests and still being able to have artwork up above. One of the things that I happen to really love is that I created the stone hearth to not only meet code relative to minimum depth, but to have the stone hearth curve and follow the shape of the room. And then I framed that with the same width plank white oak that we have in the rest of the house. So I create that to be a frame around the curved hearth. Then when that frame comes back, I line that up with the column or pier or pilaster, because it depends on how it's connected, so that the wood frames right into the shoe molding on the corner, so that these details all work and enhance each other. To the sides of the fireplace are the pilasters that are built out that work within the columns that wrap around the entire room. Those leading up to the frieze board section and the crown molding. The crown molding is not a custom profile, but it's a custom cut board, so it could be installed in a round room. So we had to have it made specifically to this shape. I also set it up so that I can have a light cove up above it to really give some volume to the ceiling and have the ceiling feel like it's up higher. In developing the concept of having this flat ceiling feel like a dome, one of the elements that I play with is that the primary bedroom is up above this, and that does have a dome. And I'll have to share that with you, but I'll share that with you another time. Let me know if you want to see that. As I mentioned before about how each room that might have a different shape to it has to have something that's directly relatable and pushes you to another room in the house. So the foyer led us to here with symmetry. The living room leads us with symmetry to the dining room, so that if you are entertaining, the round living room is very much on center with the very long dining room. These two piers are the only piers that are floating within this space. If I didn't have these, yes, it'd be a much more open floor plan, but you would lose that sense of a pavilion for this round room. It was more important to help to create the shape, and this is an area of circulation, but still amply wide at about 6 feet apart. These, by being angled and round, are also leading you towards the dining room. When you're in the dining room, this face of it on each side is also funneling you into the living room. When you are in the living room and you're looking down the length of the dining room, it has a backdrop. You are led by what's beyond it as a visual interest. That said, you're looking down the length of the dining room that then has multiple things that are going on here that join the overall space of each one of the other rooms, because each room does join other rooms that are adjacent to it, but in very different fashions. The living room was surrounded all the way, and so the way it joined the other two rooms were on effectively one side. This edge to the dining room, that side to the foyer. The foyer has all of these other aspects associated with it because it's about circulation. But the dining room has very hardened elements or rooms on each side. One to the living room, another one directly to the outside formal courtyard, another to the decorative but highly functioning wine room, which is one of the few solid surfaces in the area. And then the other side of the dining room is open back to the foyer. In this dining room, you get to experience the outside, the living room, the dining room, the foyer, the stair, the very large door. So there's a lot to happen for everybody that's sitting around this table. And that's something that I really love because it's an open floor plan. And when there's an open floor plan, you need to be able to unite all the spaces, but also make them all feel slightly cozy. And when you have a dining room, you think about the functions that you need. So yes, I've got the function of, let's call it 16 feet long. It comes down to fitting 16 guests with their standard chairs. So that's a function that this client very much wanted to achieve. So we have that aspect. But what else does a dining room do? What else does this dining room do? How is it experienced throughout the year? You are sitting here and more guests come over, so they're not walking in on top of you. No matter where you sit in this dining room, you've got a wonderful experience from every single location. But the ceiling is uniting all of these uneven elements that are everywhere. This particular ceiling is a barrel vault ceiling versus the round room with the flat ceiling that popped up. This shallow barrel vault ceiling is surrounded by a thick cove. That cove molding I set out from the face of the wall so that I can continue that detail all the way around and have that be the transitional ceiling from one area to another. It makes the ceiling that's in the center feel like it's up higher because I've added another detail a little bit lower. That gave me multiple functions. Functions for speakers, functions for lights, so that I can make that go up higher. And it also united all of these different shapes that are on all four sides. So you want a visually exciting dining room and one that is also calming, so that you can have a quiet dinner if you want, or a very exciting dinner if you want. Each one of these doors are active that go out to the formal gardens. So if they want to open up all the doors all the way across, they can, and it's still completely inviting to go indoor and outdoor. But by looking to the outside, it's not vast. It still has a sense of enclosure to it. But I also have that transitional space in between because I have a roof cover that goes all the way out to this location. So multiple people could be standing out here sharing a glass of wine and experience the outside even if it's raining and they're still under cover. It's always good to have subtle transitions from one area to another. If we've got doors and we want privacy, I created columns in front of the walls that divide each one. Each one of these columns have sconces, so they can have window treatments that could be on rods in between. The space up here I set up to have rods, but also have power brought to it in case they want motorized shades. On the other side of the living room, on center with the dining room, is the wine room. The wine room is designed to not only be a feature component, but also to be a highly functioning wine room storage. Designing this wine room accommodated a lot of elements. Specialty cooling, where I put the mechanical unit, a rolling ladder, how I made the display of wine and whiskey, the depth of lighting and how that had to be accommodated, how I was able to accommodate a large quantity of bottles, and how did I set up for frameless glass doors that are airtight. If you want to know more about this and how this was made, let me know. Maybe it could even be a series. This end of the dining room with the wine room is the closest end to the kitchen. All of the space that I've been talking about is the formal side of the house. This is the smallest arch, so it kind of downplays a little bit, pushes you in so it's not as welcoming because it's really where the informal side is. I want people to have their instincts to drive them towards the wider arches of on center with the dining room or going to the living room. This small arch going to the wine room and to the dining room are the first spots where there's switches that then control as you walk in from the kitchen side or the informal side of the house. That is also why on this side I shaped the stair on this side, because then I use this broad stair and its arch to be visually interesting, but it brings down the height of the ceiling and specifically does not show you what's behind. So you can't see what's on the other side of the house. I have a formal side of the house, I have an informal side of the house. And this arch sweeping around, this elliptical stair has a very strong, bold, sculptural feel to it, but functionally, besides just being a staircase, is one that will not say, here, you're welcome, let's walk under here. The drop ceiling, then the next arch, then the next arch, even though this is straight. Each one of these step it down, and that makes people a little uncomfortable about walking into another area of the house without being invited to that other area of the house. This sets you up for the informal side of the house, the kitchen, the breakfast, the family room, a secondary home office, mudroom, cabana area. Let me know if you want to see that. Because I have all these arches in this space that divide one side to the other, I wanted the ability to light up all of these arches without having all the lights be down in the floor or without having fixtures that are mounted underneath lighting up the arches. So what I decided to do was to take step lights and make them be flush with each of the walls of the arch. And I put them at each location to shine up on the arches all the way around. And what I liked about that, if you just turn on those lights, the underside of all of these arches, 4 arches, they're all lit up, and all these 4 arches are completely different sizes. You feel and you remember like they're all the same size, but none of them are the same size. Back to the heart of the house, of when you feel in the foyer, when you're looking and absorbing each one of the spaces, the doors to the study, which are not the primary thing to go to in the more formal area. You might have business acquaintances or might have to conduct business and have people over. So when you turn and you have your guest come in, you turn immediately to your right and you are then faced with the welcoming glass French doors, again, knotty alder, that then open up to the office and are on center with the sitting bay beyond. I set up a sitting area on this side, desk area on the opposite side. I'll share that with you another time. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I shared with you. Let me know what your favorite part was, and let me know what other videos you'd like to see. I've got over 30 years of experience under my belt of all residential projects and would love to share them with you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. How are we doing? Did I just walk in on you?